look at I say religion like Islam, we don't see order, we don't see peace. What we see is really violence, fear. And let me say this, it says, is Islam really a faith? It really is. You think about what it consists of. Islam is not really a faith as much as it is an allegiance. In other words, you promise or you pledge your allegiance to Allah, to Muhammad as his prophet. And think about it, everything related to Islam really involves no faith at all. I mean, you might say with a prayer thing, maybe that is faith, but more than likely, nothing really is a faith. It takes no faith to join it. Remember what you do to join it? You say, there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. You say those words in the presence of the imam or whoever, you're in. Easy to get in. Just say the words. You're pledging your allegiance. You try to get out, and you are violating your allegiance to this political system. There's no faith involved in anything, even the prayers. Look at the 5 pillars of Islam. We really haven't talked about these, but this is basically what they believe when they say this is really spiritual stuff. But the first, of course, is the declaration. It's basically that testimony. We call it a testimony. They call it whatever that word is, shahada. Declaring there is no God except Allah and Muhammad is his prophet. You say that, and that gets you in. And there's the ritual prayer 5 times a day. When you say you're a Muslim, you have to pray 5 times a day. And I bet you'll find a lot that don't. But that's one of the rules. Giving, it says 2.5%, but you're supposed to give a gift to the poor and the needy. Being generous to poor people. And that's maybe a positive thing about their religion, but again, it involves no faith. You just give it. You have to give it. They take it out if they have to. Then fasting during the month of Ramadan. You say, well, isn't that a spiritual thing? No, I was mentioning a while ago what fasting is, and you've heard this before, but it's during the daytime hours only for 30 days, or for the month. And by the way, the months are based upon the moon month cycle, and so Ramadan moves every year from whether it's December or February, or excuse me, December, all the way back into the summer months. It can be a different time. But they just fast during the daylight hours. Once darkness hits, well, they just feast. They eat like crazy because they're waiting for the next day to have to hold off eating. So again, is there faith involved in that? No, it's just sort of let's get around the system by eating when we can. And then the final one is pilgrimage to Mecca, at least once in a lifetime, if possible, if one's able to. I think they added that if one is able to, because so many millions go there during, I think it's during Ramadan season, or right before or right after. So many millions, and they have tents that are built. Of course, back in the day, back when Muhammad was there, they had tents for the people, the pilgrims to come and stay in. They have tents now, but they're all air conditioned. These huge tents with air conditioning and great comfort. But it's that thing, and so many millions of people, they have to tell people, no, you can't come at this time. But you look at those 5 pillars, you think, where's the faith? Where's believing something? When you even read the Quran, and you don't read it in English, you have to read it in Arabic, even the Muslims don't understand it. It's confusion. And think about the difficulty I've had to explain this the last few weeks. We as a nation, we don't understand Islam. We really don't. And I'm not sure most Muslims understand it, other than the fact they better be one. Not get out of it. Don't convert to Christianity. That's a deadly move on their part. If not deadly, at least exclusionary. All the family will turn away from that person, treat him as if he's dead, have nothing to do with him. And to a Muslim, family and community is a very important thing. To be shunned like that from a community is a harsh thing. Coming down to ISIS here. Now we're really looking at this, and I put in the notes there where this came from. Basically, my information has come from one article written by Graham Wood, What ISIS Really Wants. It's about a 25-page article he wrote in this magazine. The reason I'm using this is because ISIS itself sent a note saying this describes who we are better than any other thing. His article that he wrote about, and he was a journalist and he researched it through some imams in London and Germany and places. He inquired what exactly does ISIS want? Who are this who is this group called ISIS? And they explained to him, told him, and he wrote it down in his article, and they feel like he's best explained what they are like and who they are. First person we come upon, let me see if I already passed that, the 5 pillars of Islam. You have that in your notes, so you can see what they were. This guy here, Abu Bakr, remember Abu Bakr? He was the second caliph, right? He's the first caliph after Muhammad. His first name, Abu Bakr, that was his name. He just simply took that name for his own. Al-Baghdadi. This is the present day guy that's primarily the leader of this group called ISIS. He spoke in July of last year, July of 2014, the great mosque in Mosul. Remember, they captured the city of Mosul, and he proclaimed himself at that point to be the first caliph in a century. Actually, the first caliph in about 1,000 years who was officially a caliph. Now, what's a caliph? He is the leader of the nation, or of Islam. A caliph is the leader of the whole group of Islam. He proclaimed himself that. The last caliphate, which means one who's in charge of a territory, was in 1924 of the Ottoman Empire. Remember, Turkey basically today, when after World War I, Turkey, and in fact we're not celebrating, we're remembering, if you heard the news, a group of Armenians who were slaughtered, and they literally were slaughtered in that country about 90 years ago, I believe it was, or something like that. People pushed off of cliffs and just bodies piled upon each other. These are Christian people who have done that too. But the Ottoman Empire dissolved the caliphate in 1924. I'm not sure if the pressure was from Britain and other places, but they simply said it's done with. So the Ottoman Empire was the last caliphate. And really there wasn't an official single leader. It was just kind of a generic country that was the caliph in those days. Therefore, it wasn't really recognized by a lot today. Most who are really fundamental today said the last caliph was 1,000 years ago. What would that be? 1500 something. Anyway. But Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, you'll still hear about him in the news. And you won't find him because he's pretty much in hiding, but he's proclaimed himself. A little bit different from Osama bin Laden. Of course, he's dead now, but he led a lot of horrific things happening. He and Al-Qaeda, and Al-Qaeda is still around, they differed from ISIS. They didn't get along too well. In fact, they kind of split ways. But bin Laden was part of a modern, secular world. Remember the people who crashed their planes into the towers and so forth? Muhammad Ali and these others, they fit right in well with it. They just mingled right in because they were modern-day Muslims. And what bin Laden and Al-Qaeda was behind was they wanted specific political things. They wanted to show that they mean business. You got to do what they ask you to do. They wanted America out of Saudi Arabia. They wanted America to do certain things. And all these things they were doing showing they're really a political movement, but in line with modern day thinking. ISIS is almost exactly the opposite. ISIS is that medieval religious nature religion. Basically, they want to go back to the 700s or the 600s when Muhammad was here, and they're ushering in a day of judgment. In ISIS beliefs, they're very strong on I'd say prophetic or actually apocalyptic things that are going to happen in the future. In fact, they think that they are the ones ushering in what's called the Day of Judgment. In other words, by what they're doing, their efforts they're doing as this group is trying to usher in this final battle, this Day of Judgment is coming. And they have that medieval religious nature. And I say religious because we don't forget, that's where the Western world makes the mistake. They think, well, it's just a group that's trying to create havoc and terror. No, they are a very religious group, and use that term religious in the sense of a political and believing certain things. Last September, by the way, they use this term prophetic methodology. Everything they do is based upon who? Who's their prophet? Muhammad. Everything that Muhammad did, everything they find in the Quran that Muhammad did, and the Hadith, which explains the events and the activities of Muhammad, when those things match up, that's exactly what ISIS is doing. It is a prophetic methodology, following the prophet to a letter, meticulously following every detail that the prophet Muhammad would do. If you remember our history of Muhammad a few weeks ago, he's not a nice guy. In fact, when he had an opportunity to surrender, he didn't surrender. He said, let's get our forces together and go fight. He was constantly in battles. His people were constantly in battles. He thought he was doing God's will because every time he'd fight, he'd win. And you know, when you're winning, God must be on your side. And then came a time where he wasn't winning. He got defeated in a battle, and he kind of went back, tail tucked between his legs, and said, well, that's Satan trying to do that. You know, I'm just blaming on something else. But anyway, this attitude. Last September of last year, ISIS chief spokesman, his name was Sheikh Abu Muhammad al-Nadi, called upon Western Muslims. By the way, I say that this is prophetic methodology. This is what he said. He said to find an infidel in the West, in other words, the U.S., Britain, any place in the Western Europe, find an infidel and, quote, smash his head with a rock, poison him, run over him with a car, or destroy his crops. Now, what does that sound like? That sound like modern day thing? Smashing with a rock or ruining crops? It's exactly what Muhammad said in the Quran. He's saying this is what we need to do, because he's going back to those early writings and basically having 7th century thinking for current day Islam, or Islamic efforts. What I say here is ISIS is Islamic, and it is very Islamic. In other words, it is basic, what do you call it, very fundamental, foundational Islam from the very beginning. In fact, going back to those earliest writings and earliest interpretations. It has echoes of the ancient words of Muhammad and the Quran, and they've attracted people to what they're doing. Of course, it's through media, through the internet and that kind of thing. Twitter, they have lots of followers. They've attracted to their group psychopaths and other people who just want to fight, and crazy people. But their most ardent followers follow the ancient Islamic interpretations. And almost every major decision they make, this ISIS group, from their law, the Islamic State follows the prophetic methodology, in other words, meticulously following the law. This is the area in which they have taken here to this point. Let me back that up, because I say some other things here before we go on. The errors of the West, the errors that we as Western nations make about Islam, or about ISIS, is not acknowledging that religious factor in what they are. Because you see, the government of the United States, the government of Britain, Germany, they don't care about religion, they don't care about what you believe, they just see what you do. And so they look at that as they're just a fanatical group, a radical group trying to terrorize people. They don't take into account things like, what does the group believe? What is this group going back to? When they say Allahu Akbar, that means God is great, and slice off a person's head, you know why they're doing it? For religious reasons. We look at it like, how cruel can you be? You're just being terrorized. You're just being mean that word. No, they really believe that's what their religion teaches them. That's an apostate. That's a person who is an infidel. And you can cut his head off because that's what Muhammad said to do. And it's a religious reason. If you don't have that as your foundation, understanding, you as a nation, you're sitting there trying to fight something that you don't know what you're fighting. One scholar said that ignoring the religious nature of ISIS, in other words, by saying it's not Islamic, you know who keeps harping on that is our president. Oh, it's not Islamic. And other leaders of our nation. Oh, that's not Islamic, it's just a radical group. No, it's absolutely Islamic. It's an embarrassed and politically correct with a cotton candy view of his own religion. That's what someone said about it. It neglects history and the legality of the Muslims, and it's rooted in an interfaith Christian nonsense tradition. Just a few weeks ago, you probably saw in the paper, a church in Winston-Salem, in fact, I hate to say it, but it was the church I grew up in, had an interfaith meeting, had a Jewish rabbi, had a person from the Islam imam come, they all spoke in the church and told what they believed and showed what their religion believed. You know, that is what he's talking about here, this interfaith belief that we're just all going to get along, and we all believe the same things, and God is God, and we all just have different ways to God. That's the mistake we make in the West, is we don't have any concept of what the foundation of this religion is. It's not just a religion, it is a political, military machine together with the idea that we slip in under the cover of religion because, hey, we're a religion. You got to let us do what we're doing because we're a religion. But then they come out with a full-fledged political machine and a military machine, and you don't believe, you're excluded. You're either put to death or silenced somehow. Something else that I said about that, I don't think of it. Anyway, think about it though. You see these pictures or these stories, we don't necessarily see the pictures because we don't want to watch them, but what ISIS does. Where did these people, these folks in these beards and these are dark clothing and this covering of their head, where do they get their ideas for the genocide and the annihilation of the people they're doing? They're either Christians or they're Muslim groups they don't care about, or people who, Yazidis, that they can't figure out. They don't understand Yazidis. The Yazidis were an offshoot of a Muslim group. They were, they believe in some Muslim thing. They even had a group of their people, leaders, come together and had a question whether the Yazidis were apostate Muslims, which meant they go to death, or whether they're just pagan people and therefore enslaved. And you see them doing both of that group. Persecution, execution, enslavement is what they're all about. And it's not because they want to be radical, it's because they want to be Islamic. They want to be as close as they can to the Prophet. Even other Muslim groups don't relate to them. Al-Qaeda turned away from this as disowned them. The nations that are controlled by Muslim leaders have turned away from them because they're so radical, you might say. The last caliphate I mentioned was Turkey, or the Ottoman Empire, and Muslims really don't acknowledge that they were a caliphate because it didn't fully enforce Islamic law. What does that mean? It means they didn't condone stoning, slavery, or amputation. And guess who did? Muhammad. He said all those things are fine. You capture somebody, you enslave them all. Rape the women, wherever else into slavery. But another reason they didn't accept the Turkish caliphate was the ones who descended did not come from the Prophet's family, who were Quraysh. We mentioned that sort of division before Muhammad came along. The Quraysh and the uncle that had a little friction over who was going to control the Kaaba, this place where they would worship, and real friction in that family. That divided all the way through the centuries. But Quraysh was the family from which Muhammad descended. And those who were his caliphs after him, his four after him, were also from the Quraysh family. So al-Baghdadi, in his sermon last July, he said that we need to revive the caliphate, which had not functioned for about 1,000 years. He said the loyalty, in fact, people there hastened to declare a caliphate and place him as an imam or leader, which means the same thing. And al-Baghdadi is Quraysh. That's an interesting thing. That he actually is Quraysh. Therefore, he has a legal right to the throne. Let me see if I can find it here. This is the area in which the caliphate, you might say, this territory that they have taken. But the caliphate is a political entity, but it's also a vehicle of salvation. You've got to declare your allegiance to this guy, al-Baghdadi, if you want to go to heaven. Because to die without pledging allegiance to a caliphate is to die a death of disbelief. That's what they believe. That's what Muhammad taught. So you must pledge your allegiance to al-Baghdadi. What we heard a few weeks ago, Boko Haram over in Africa. What they do? Well, they joined them. The news doesn't say what they did. They pledged their allegiance to a caliph, al-Baghdadi. They may be way over in Africa, but they're good on they're fully the Muslim group. They have joined in. They didn't just join a radical group. They have fallen in line and pledged their allegiance to this leader. Qualifications for a caliph? You got it in your notes, I think. According to the Sunni law or their tradition, got to be a Qurayshi descent. He must possess moral, physical, mental integrity and have honor, which is authority. And then finally, he must have territory. That wasn't possible a few years ago, but now it's accomplished. They've already taken the territory. We just noticed in the map there. That whole region there, from Syria, northern Syria, all the way down into Iraq, which is that gray area. And that's been changing because there's been some places to create and other places that they've driven some of these folks back. This is a month or two ago when this map was made. So all this is changing all the time. But you notice Mosul up here, in the top. Mosul is right there where al-Baghdadi spoke. And it runs all the way from over Aleppo and Dabiq all the way across and here's Baghdad. They managed to keep them out of Baghdad so far. I'll get back to that map in just a minute. But anyway, what a caliph is. He qualifies. He's totally qualified and considered to be an official caliph or leader of what they consider true Islam. I wonder would people here in America travel all the way over there and they think, oh, let's just get involved. No, these folks are traveling because they have become Muslim and they've been taught that you must have your allegiance to true Islam, and this guy is leading true Islam according to them. At least that's what they think. And basically, Islam, or ISIS, is trying to reenact the earliest days of Islam. Obsessive seriousness, dedication to the text of the Quran, and serious Muslims all over the world desire to immigrate to Syria, over there, where that's why you see all the 150 people from the U.S. have so far tried to get their way over. Some have made it, some haven't. Can't keep up with all of them, whether they make it or not, but from Europe and other places, these folks are coming here because they believe and they're being taught you've got to be in a caliphate. You've got to be in a place where Sharia law is being taught. Okay? Sharia law is absent from most Muslim places and countries today until the caliphate. This guy here, Adjim Shadari, this author who wrote the article, met with him. He's a London imam, or a leader of a Muslim group in London. He can't leave London because they took his passport away. He liked to travel. In fact, his desire is to travel. The journalist asked him, have you pledged allegiance to, he wouldn't answer. Because if he did, if he pledged his allegiance, he'd be arrested. He knew that in London. But he did say this, and he's one of the most notorious defenders of the Islamic State, ISIS, which basically that's what the word ISIS means, Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham, which I'm not sure what that is, but you hear the president say ISIL, Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, which is that region. Either way, but he said crucifixions, beheadings are sacred requirements. This is a guy in London saying that. This is a guy that has Western influence, but he still is holding that fundamental Islamic belief. Crucifixions and beheadings are sacred. That means it's religious. It is a spiritual thing to cut someone's head off if they're an infidel. But by the caliphate, it's required to implement Sharia law. That means cutting people's hands off, enslaving people, all the things involved with Sharia law. And Muslims are obligated, every Muslim is obligated to immigrate to a territory where Sharia is enforced. Where would that be? Right there in Syria, in northern Iraq. And the Caliph, al-Baghdadi, cannot deviate from Sharia. Sharia is not only those cruel things you hear about, but it's also a social welfare program. They help people who are poor and so forth. And the people who live there think, well, this is great, this is a good thing, this is coming in because we're going to be helped. But you can see the problem there because it is a pure fear put upon people. But in return, the Caliph, consequently, he has to be in total obedience to the Sharia law himself. And if he violates or he wanders away from Sharia, he can be thrown out as the Caliph. And those who continue to support non-Muslim governments are considered apostate. In other words, Muslims who live in America, Europe, places, considered apostates. And if they don't immigrate, if they don't move to this place, they will be receive what an apostate gets, and that's death. They believe, ISIS believe, they're in the written words of the Quran. Again, this is a boldly different group. They believe strongly in what's called the end of days. That's that final prophetic thing in some of their writings. I'm not sure, I haven't read it, I don't understand it, but it's a key phrase in their propaganda they put out, the end of days. They are bringing forth this end of days. I mentioned bin Laden, and currently Zawahiri, who is the leader of the Al-Qaeda group, he's that guy with the beard, and he doesn't show up much. You see pictures of him. These both came from elite Sunni families. They look down upon the idea of an apocalypse, an end time thing. This Islamic state, though, when the U.S. occupied Iraq, when they left, all of a sudden they began seeing all kinds of fulfilled prophecies according to them, all kinds of signs that this is the end time. They anticipated something called the Mahdi, M-A-H-D-I, if you've heard your text here. This was a messianic figure that will lead the Muslims to victory before the end of the world. They saw he must be coming. Might be al-Baghdadi, we don't know. But bin Laden and Al-Qaeda wrote to the leaders of this group, or at least some of these people, and said, would you cut it out? Don't be talking about that end time stuff. They didn't believe in end time. They believed there would be an end time, but they weren't the ones to make it in. It's whenever Allah wants to bring in. But ISIS believes they're going to usher in these end times. And they believe, first of all, that there are only 12 legitimate caliphs. And al-Baghdadi is the number 8, so we don't know how many more will come after this. Armies of Rome, this is written in the Quran, obviously, they say the interpretation is probably more in the Hadith, because Muhammad really didn't do much with Rome in those days. Most of his efforts were in the Sinai Peninsula, the Arabian Peninsula, where the territory he conquered was basically his own people in Arabia. The armies of Rome will meet the armies of Islam in northern Syria. And the final showdown with the anti-Messiah, this, what did I say his name was? Mahdi's the Messiah. I'll tell you about the other guy in a second. But we meet up with an anti-Messiah, we call him Antichrist, in Jerusalem. Now there's the map. Great importance happened a couple of years ago, or a year and a half or so ago, when ISIS captured a city up in the north there. I'll show you where that is. Up here at the top, and I don't know if you can see it or not where you're sitting, but there's a little town called Dabiq, northern Syria, border of Turkey almost, right north of Aleppo. And when that was won, ISIS went wild. They thought, wow, because they believe that it's written in the Quran, or interpretation of it anyway, is that Muhammad reportedly said, this is where the armies of Rome will set up camp, this place. They call it Dabiq. Now, I don't know how Muhammad would have written or said that, because he never went that far north. Maybe somewhere tucked in something, or in the Hadith. But it says that will be, when Rome meets up with the armies of Islam there at Dabiq, it'll be Rome's Waterloo. And they're awaiting the arrival of the armies of the enemy to come to this place. And the beheading of the aid worker Peter Kasich a year and a half ago, it was done into Dabiq, this place. They called him the American Crusaders, or the American Crusader. Last December, there was fighting in Iraq, and it was near this place, and Twitter went crazy on this subject with the ISIS people, because they were feeling the first guests of the party were coming. They look at this as something wonderful, a great battle, a great war would take place at this place. At the end of this time, going from that way, there would be a great battle up there in Dabiq. After the battle, many would be killed, but there would then ultimately be a battle down in Jerusalem, right here. We could go north of Aleppo, not on the map, right down here. Final battle would be there. Now we know that in the scripture, and there are last day events that we believe, and they sort of follow along with some of those in what they say. But ask the question, well, who is Rome? Because he's going to be battling against Rome. Who is Rome? The Roman Church, they don't have an army. Roman Catholic Church, the Pope doesn't have an army. Who exactly would Rome be? Could it be the Eastern Roman Empire? Could it be Turkey? Because Turkey's north of there. It's possible. Could it be any infidel army? Could it be the United States Army? He said, wait, let me find that dude. whoever comes and fights there, that's going to be the army of their last days. And after the victory that the Islamic people will have, this army of Islam will have the caliphate then will expand to sack Istanbul, the city that they won in 14-something, and then maybe the whole earth. We don't know. And then anti-Messiah, his name here is Dajjal. I think it showed in your notes. I hope I wrote it down here. Dajjal will come along. He is from Iran, according to their beliefs, northeast or eastern Iran, to the Khorasan region. And this anti-Messiah, this Dajjal, will kill vast numbers of the caliphate fighters, leaving just 5,000 people to go there to Jerusalem. And there in Jerusalem, they believe the anti-Messiah, Dajjal, prepares to finish them off, and all of a sudden, before he comes in to fight them, Jesus will show up. Now, to them, the Muslims, Jesus is the second most revered prophet. He's written of in the Quran. They don't believe he's God like we do, but they believe that Jesus, prophet, will show up, return to earth. He will spear Dajjal, put a spear through him, and then lead Muslims to victory. Again, talk about confusion and craziness, but that's what this group believes. This is the last days, or final days they believe in. This end of days apocalypse they believe in. And Muhammad himself said that one sign of the imminent arrival of the end of days would be when people for a long time stop talking about end of days. And so this ISIS group said, that's true. Muslims haven't talked about this for centuries. We haven't talked about end of days. So it must be time. It must be ready. And when I say ISIS is Islam, it's very Islamic, it really is going back to those ancient days. Notice then the Islamic purity of ISIS. And I think I wrote the topics of message, essential characteristics of this purity of ISIS. The thing about ISIS is we can predict what they're going to do because they're going to follow what they said in the Quran. They're going to do what they say they're going to do. They're not like Al-Qaeda where they have these hidden cells all over and they just pop up and blow somebody up. No, they're going to do exactly what they say they're going to do. They boast about it openly in their plans. Offensive jihad, this expansion into non-Muslim countries or countries ruled by non-Muslims. This is essential duty of the caliphate to move into those countries, to conquer them, just as Muhammad did. Secondly, to terrorize enemies by beheadings, crucifixions, and enslavements. Again, where did they get the idea of those things? The Quran. Exactly what Muhammad did. And then whether to accept, they don't accept any border. That's why when you saw that map a moment ago, there's no border, at least they claim there's no border between those two. Iraq, Syria, other nations, they don't accept border. Even the ones that are in Book of Ram, there's no border. Muhammad said to not accept borders. It's anathema to Muhammad to believe in borders. He won the whole territory. The whole earth is a mosque, according to Muhammad. And then requirement to wage jihad at least once a year. This is the caliph's responsibility. You've got to make sure. If the caliph doesn't proceed with a jihad battle or fighting somebody, the caliph will fall into a state of sin, according to them. They have to get rid of the caliph. In other words, al-Baghdadi, better make sure he keeps this thing going. Which brings us to the encouragement for his downfall. And this was written in the article too. I won't go into it much, but ISIS doesn't relate to any other nation because they believe they're the only thing, the only nation. So they don't relate to other Islamic nations. They would never send a representative to the United Nations because to them that would be acknowledging something greater than Allah, some authority over him. To recognize any other authority, any other state other than God or Allah is reprehensible to them. Consequently, what do you find with someone who is so isolated in their fundamental beliefs like that, that won't relate to anybody, won't tolerate anybody else other than kill them? What's going to happen to a group like that? Eventually, they'll simply have to just wither up. They won't be there. There's nobody else to take over other than their children because they're killing everybody else. So in a way, there's some positive things, even though it's a horrific thing going on there. The things you see in ISIS today and the things they put on the internet and the things they show, the burning of a human being, and those kinds of things. And those are recruitment tools. You tell people, we are the true Islam, come on over. You got to join the caliphate. If you're Islamic, you better get here and join. And people believe that. But anyway, we'll talk more about maybe how to deal with this as Christians next Sunday, and then maybe as a nation, what our nation should do. And I certainly am not an authority on how and what the nation leaders will do. I certainly can't predict that, but we can say at least what we think they should do as we continue. Any thoughts or questions? I know we've kind of gone through this quickly, and there are things that kind of jump back and forth on it.